Good morning everyone, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so I've completed my little snowman. So the next stage for me is to make the cover that goes over him with the number 5 on it as part of my advent calendar, undo the buttons and reveal. So I just went to grab the two elements that I use, which is a panel that's slightly bigger than the snowman and then the little piece that sits on front that has a little bit of embroidery on it to sort of have the 5 sit in amongst the fabric, and realised they were my last two. So before I can go any further, I need to rip a few more so that in the coming weeks, I have fabrics ready to go, because if I use them, then I've lost my measurements to some degree. So what am I doing? I need to turn that around. I could have done this off camera, and I thought, oh well, I'll turn on the camera, give you something to see, because I like to show you as much as I can in my prep, because there's newbies out there, so you might just pick up something that you're wondering. So I'm just going to place the original on there. It's not an exact science, it's sort of rip. I'm just going to take off the selvage now. I tend to keep those things because they're handy to stitch into things or ruffle up or put on a tab if you're making a journal. So now we have our piece. Now let's break it down into the different elements. And you should always measure with your first original piece. Otherwise, especially with fabric, things just get bigger and bigger. It might only be 1/8 of an inch, but that 1/8 of an inch over quite a few pieces can turn out to be quite a lot. So always keep your original as your guide. I was looking at the number 5 thinking, wow, we're nearly at 6, halfway. Oh, this calico is a bit wonky. It's a little bit wonky. You can see it's a little bit off, but it doesn't matter with slow stitch. It's all fine. Okay, so there's another 4. So, and then I will just rip the threads. That piece isn't big enough, that's scrap, so that'll just go into the scrap pile. Let's get our piece over here. And let's just do a few of this little panel. I find calico the best medium to use for just about everything. It's inexpensive, it's readily available, and then save all your good fabrics for your work on top. You can embroider straight onto your calico by all means, which I did with the snowman, but it can also be, a base underneath your beautiful fabrics too, just to give it a little bit of structure, which I don't mind too. I sort of like my work to feel a little substantial in my hands. Sort of helps my hands grip things. Takes a bit of the pressure off my fingers and my wrist just by having fabric that is a little bit more substantial. Okay. I can't decide about my red snowman, if I'm going to do him or not. I just don't know. I just guess there's no need to make a decision. the end of the day, whatever. Maybe I just don't feel like doing a snowman. If you've been watching the William Morris series, I've got William Morris fabric that I want to do something with, but I can't decide what to do with it either. I could do, you know, a general page, but then how do I showcase the beautiful fabrics without it just being a mishmash? How do I bring an embroidery into it when the fabrics are so overpowering? I had an idea of embroidering a bird in amongst it, but the bird, if I use him as the William Morris element, there's not much space to get the feature of William Morris fabric on a bird. It's a bit tricky. Like, at the end of the day, it's probably a better fabric for a furnishing, like a cushion or a quilt, than a small slow stitch. So I'm sort of just thinking, and I was sitting down today to do something with the William Morris fabric. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I think the fabric's still sitting here handy. I'll show it to you in a moment. So there's my spare elements. There's my new pieces. So I just need one of each. That'll sit on there. Let's have the number 5 on it. So that and that can go back into the book. Ready for another day. Where's my book? So there's number 5. Oh, goodness me. I've got threads everywhere. There we go. That can sit there for the next prompt. That's where our number 5 goes. So our little snowman will sit there. And then the number 5 panel, if you're new to what I'm doing, I'm making this a panel that will button over the top of the snowman, and then on the 4th or 5th or 6th day before Christmas, I can unbutton it to reveal the stitchery, which is going to be a bunting hanging somewhere in my home. That's the grand plan, as they would say. Oh, it'll be good when this is stitched into something. It's wiggling around all the time. It's fiddly. Got all the seams ironed, but all the wiggling. I can't do too much more on the cover until I know the thickness, because I've got a gap here that I'm going to infill with fabric, and that can be cut and extended or whatever. So I sort of can't go too far ahead on the cover and sort of get this wrangled a little, because I don't know how thick it'll end up. I will have a bit of an idea, because we're coming up to number 6. I'll be able to work it out a little bit, I'd say. Just having a sip of my coffee. I meant to show you all this yesterday. I sort of got wound up in my stitchery. Now, if you're chasing some seam binding and you're in Australia, now you'd have to check the Etsy store, My Enchanted Crafting. Have a little look. She may ship overseas, but she does beautiful packs of seam binding. She does a bit of everything. So head over to Etsy and you'll look up My Enchanted Crafting at Etsy. I'll pop her details in the bottom of this video, but you can buy combination packs of seam binding, and they're just gorgeous. And I think from memory there's about 5 meters in each little bundle. Very good price compared to others out there. So if you're on the hunt, I'd highly recommend it. Now I'm looking for some strips like that can be stitched around the outer edge of our panel. So I just crease it because it's going to be pinned around the outer edge, like so, to create a binding. Okay, so there's one side. Just pin it into place, and then I'll run a running stitch all the way around that. Now there might be another piece. Yes, nice long one, excellent. So I'm just going to finger press that as well in half. Like so. And then that can be put on that side. It's good when they're cut. I did cut a little extra last week, so I'm hoping there's some good snippets in there that are already split in half. Oh, look like I'm running out. Okay, so we're going to need to cut some more. So these are 2-inch wide jelly roll strips, 2.5 inch actually. So I need to just create a bit of space here. And I'm going to just mark that there. Line it all up. And then I can slice it down. Nice and straight. And we might as well do a second one while we're here. Okay, so I've got my lines, so now I can cut it. Like, you could use a fabric cutting wheel. If you were quilters, you would be using that. Where's my fabric scissors? So I'm just going to slice this. Probably don't need to cut it any more than I actually need, so I might just bring my piece back. And we'll stop cutting up there. And that'll do. There's a selvage there, so we'll get rid of that. That will do that side nicely. And again. And once they're pinned, I can run my top stitch around the whole thing, and that's the border done. So it's nice and simple. I haven't yet put the buttons that secure this piece onto the snowman on the snowman yet. So So I need to do that as well. Okay, let's get that piece now in position. Finger pressing it. Really simple way to create a binding that's a little rustic around a piece of fabric or a frame around across a slow stitch. Really simple. Now you could break this down even into smaller pieces again that were like, you know, random sizes. Just want to tuck this corner underneath that piece coming along the bottom. Let me know in the comments if you're doing a advent calendar style piece as well. You may not be doing a bunting like I am, but are you creating a cover for each of your pieces to sort of hide the embroidery in until the time of the reveal? Just going to reposition this one. It's just not coming to the end as neatly as I would like it. I'd love to know who's decided to display their panels from our projects as a advent calendar. So yeah, let me know in the comments what your plans are for your pieces. Are you putting it into a book? Are you going to frame some of them? Or do you have another idea of what you are thinking you could use them for? Are you planning to gift your pieces? Are they going to be part of people's Christmas parcels? How beautiful to receive a piece of stitchery. Oh goodness, that would be a bit special. I'd love to know what you're all planning to do with your gorgeous pieces. Now, this one needs to be added next. Okay. Lovely. That's got it. And pins. So simple as that, we've created a binding to protect the edge. And it's done. Okay, so now it's just a case of needle and thread, and I go around the outer edge of it. I won't do all of that on camera. So I'm just going to do a rough measure of what thread I would need to get all the way around the edge. And I'm just using crocheting cotton that I picked up at a thrift store. It's more than enough to do the job. So that's ready to be stitched. So it's just a case of I bring my knot up on the inside of my binding so that it's not seen, and then I go straight down through to the back to secure. Oops, let's put that pin away before the pin gets tangled up in my embroidery and bites me. Oh, now I've got a knot. Oh my goodness. How can the first stitch result in a knot? That's a good start, isn't it? Oh, goodness me. It's going to be one of those days. See that thread? See, I was wondering why it wouldn't pull through properly. The thread has split within. I need to stop what I'm doing here because that thread is breaking down. That's the problem when you do pick up threads from op shops. You don't know the history of the thread. You don't really know the quality of the thread, especially if there's no label attached. So I'm going to need to get a new piece of cotton, I think. I don't like the way that that's coming together. Okay, let's have another look. I think the eye of my needle may have been a little bit tight, and as I've pulled it through, as the cotton has gone through the eye, it's roughed it up. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So that was my fault. My needle fractured the fibres in the thread. So now I can have another go at this. Put the needle through. That's better. I feel like the needle now is making an adequate hole for the cotton to go through. Because if the hole's too small as well and you're forcing your thread through, you're also roughing up the fibres once again. So I'm just going to now do a running stitch right around that perimeter. I won't do it all because I'm wasting your time, and we're already at 22 minutes. So what I might do is just get that started. So that'll finish nicely. All right, and we can pop that aside, so a job for later. Now we need to create a piece here. So what pretty fabric could we use? First of all, being that it's all about Snowman, I'm thinking we should have some dots. And there's some more dots. Let's move this so I can access it. And let's have a look at the size of one that I've done previously. Oh, those dogs, they're Bandit and Pepper are playing. They're having a great time. I'm just using a previous made piece to get my measurement of the panel that sits underneath. That's it. So I can move that now out of the way. Oh, that's Bandit. He's so excited. He loves running and being an idiot. They're having a bit of a argy-bargy at the moment. Yesterday we had a gentleman here fixing a pump that had failed. And we were all out there, and I was sort of just watching the dogs to see how they behaved. Is this number 5? Yes. How they were behaving with a stranger in the yard, and they were really good. My previous Aussie Shepherd, who passed beginning of the last year, or beginning of this year, he was a bit touchy. He was not real keen on people coming into the yard. So I really have my fingers crossed that these pair are a lot more chilled and can be involved and play, and you know, anyone can come, and as long as we're there, they're happy, which it seems like they are. So I'm really pleased about that. But yesterday I'm sitting out on this deck chair with them playing while the gentleman's chatting to us, and you know, working on this pump. And Bandit had a piece of bark in his mouth that he was playing with and proud and showing me and wanted me to take it but not take it. You know what they like, pups, they like, take it please but don't take it. And I showed an interest in that bark, and Pepper, she comes straight over to take it. But she didn't take it like normal, where she'd just grab hold of it on one side of it, and he might have it in her mouth, and she's got it in her mouth, and they trot around for 10 minutes either side of the piece of bark or whatever it is they're mucking around with. No, not this time. She came in hot, and she just nailed him to the ground, really aggressive to get this bark, this lump of wood. Teeth, everything really went full on. And she's never really done that unless he gets too close to her food. And she did it, I think, twice, where she's just pinned him to the ground with teeth gnashing, and he's gone, okay, all right, that's your bicky bowl. I'll never go near it again. And he doesn't. It only happened twice, and he learnt really quickly he's to eat his own biscuits, and he can go and sniff and look at her bowl once she's finished. So she stood him up. Well, she did this over this piece of bark, not once, but 3 times, and I just could not break them up. He was copping it, and he was starting to get a little bit back at her too. So that being a male, there's going to come a day where he's going to say, enough, I'm the boy. You're now number 2. So, yeah, in the end, I had to sort of stop my behaviour, which was, let's all play with this stick, because we're not playing nicely anymore. So I stood up and sort of walked away from the situation, and they both stopped immediately and just followed like normal pups. So I couldn't break them up. It was on. Of course, you don't want to get your hands in the middle of gnashing teeth. So yeah, I don't know whether there's a bit of jealousy that she wanted the stick for me. She tends to get between me and him a bit. If there's a bit of rough play and Bandit's getting a little excited and starts mucking around a bit, she'll quickly jump up and get between me and him, I've noticed, in probably the last 4 weeks. So I don't know what that's all about, but it's a little bit antisocial. So I have a feeling that there's going to come a day really soon that Bandit may stand her up. Okay, so I've got my 5 and my background in position. And now what I tend to do is just pop some elements that have come from the piece underneath, but just a hint. I don't make a whole snowman again, but I have a look around my desk for just scraps, pops of colour. I really should be pinning this without that piece underneath, because it is not connected until I'm ready. And I'll run a white stitch around the 5. I will go around the perimeter of this piece here, and then a blue around the outer edge. So that's sort of the procedure I go through. Now I'm just looking at these doilies that are sitting here, because I did do some bits and pieces from them. I also did a piece of this doily, so I could do with bringing that into play. I did a piece of this. My snowball. Now, have I got any little squares of fabric in there? I really like this too, but I don't have much of it left, so I might want to use it for another There's a little bit of dark blue. That might help just lift it a little bit. Yeah, I like that. And then that. Lift up that 5. Or do I want to? I used a bit of this. Let's cut a little bit off of this scraggly piece. It's such a pretty doily, but it's just fallen to bits. That's better. Yeah, I like that better. It's not as bold as that one. Let's just pin that down. And then I might be able to just put some sequins across the front there, I think, because I used a champagne sequin in the snow. So I might tuck that one up there. That's pretty. Okay, there we go. I'm happy with that. So it's just little clusters of bits and pieces. Let's get some more cotton. And I'm going to do a stitch through the 5. And that will secure. So it's just a case of doing a running stitch right down the centre of the digit. And it's just like a top stitch holding it on. And sort of pick your line so that you get your shape of your 5. Like so. That's it. And around we go. Really simple, quick, effective way of doing a digit into a slow stitch. Now that pin can come out. And probably that one as well, because the 5 is going to catch that piece of lace. I must show you that William Morris fabric too. As soon as I finish this 5, I'm going to jump up and grab it. And I'm just going to sit it here and I'm going to have a think about it, because I'd really like to do a page with it in my journal of stitchery from earlier in the year. I've got a few blank spots where I can slide in something. And that way I've got it forever, because it'll end up going into a project someday somewhere, and then it'll be gone. Who knows what that will be, mind you. That's half the struggle. But something will come along. I'm sort of a bit unsure. But it'd be nice to have it worked into the journal, and then I've got it forever. If that makes sense. Now there's my 5 stitched. So I'm just going to now finish that off and come out to the outer edge. Oh, come on. But I might need to get the blue fabric, I think. The blue cotton, because I think that white will disappear. So I'm going to change that for the blue. How are we going for time? Plenty of time. Okay, so I might start. And just do a running stitch. My cousin, her daughter, is the ambulance lady that went to Leeds as part of a program with QU2 in Australia. So Maddie, bit of an update on Maddie. Her mum, who's my first cousin, she has flown over for a work conference and is catching up with Maddie. She's there for 2 weeks. The conference is on the connecting weekend, so I think it's this coming weekend. So she's got a week in Leeds, having a look around that city and where Maddie's working and living, and spending a bit of time with Maddie. And then Teresa will go on to London for this big conference. She's a radiographer specialising in babies, ultrasounds. And then Maddie has got some leave and she's going to come down to London, and the pair of them are going to spend the week together doing the touristy thing and having a good look around. So they asked if I would like to join them about a month and a half ago. I was so tempted. And I thought, oh, will I not? And I chewed on it for a weekend because we were actually at a birthday party that weekend for Teresa's mum. She's turning 70. And we were all up at Maryborough, Queensland town, city, in celebrating this birthday party. And Teresa's mum and my mum are sisters. So Teresa's like, you must come with me. And I was so tempted. We priced the flights. I had the flights in the shopping basket ready to book. And I thought, oh, and when you get a feeling that, no, don't do it. I had that feeling all weekend. And I did have plans for this coming weekend myself. I have a wedding. So I felt a bit of guilt about cancelling on a wedding, and the wedding is a staff member that used to work for us. So it would have been a bit, not good to cancel. So that was in the back of my mind, but I just had this overwhelming feeling that I shouldn't do it. So I didn't book it. Plus, I'm lucky enough to be going to Paris next year. Like, come on, enough's enough. It's not real cheap to travel these days, so enough was enough. So I didn't go. So she's now posting all these pictures of her walking around the beautiful England and all the adventures they're having. So I'm feeling a little bit, I could have been there. But I'm glad I didn't go, because a week or so ago my dad got ill and I had to quickly get up to the farm and take care of him for that week. Now, that would have been a lot of stress, knowing that he was not well and needing a little extra TLC to get him back on his feet. He hurt his back, and that sent him to bed. And being a farmer and now a bachelor, because my mum passed earlier in the year, he sort of crashed a little bit health-wise, but it wasn't anything serious. It was just a bit of dehydration and, not eating properly. So I had a week up there sorting that out and getting him back on his feet. Plus we did a heap of tests just to make sure that he was okay and it wasn't something sinister. He's 74 next February. And touch wood, it's all turned out fine. But in the process, we've made some big decisions, and he's going to sell the farm, and we're not going to say the R word because he's 74, and 74-year-olds apparently don't retire. I didn't say that R word. So, but he's decided he's going to move a little bit closer to me because he's a good 3 hours away. So he's going to move a little bit closer and get a smaller version of what he's on. So technically I grew up on a dairy farm, and small crops, loose and hay crops farm. And that was nearly 400 acres. And they sold that and moved closer to town and bought 50 acres. And he turned that just into a small crops farm, which has kept him busy for about 15 years. Very, very busy, might I say. So he's now finding that running the household and everything that comes with that, and bill paying and everything that Mum used to do, plus running a full farm, harvesting every day for a roadside store, plus the local supermarket, plus, it never ends. He'd have probably 12 different vegetables planted and harvesting at any one time. And then in around that, he does quite a few acres of onions in summer and pumpkins in winter. So it's just ridiculous, actually, the amount of work he's still doing. Anyway, he's a very active farmer, so I'm not going to hold him back. He can do whatever he wants. Anyway, I'm hoping one day no one will hold me back that way and I can do as much crafting as I want. See my theory? So anyway, Dad's decided that, boy, it's a lot of work to do your paperwork of an evening, feed yourself 3-4 times a day, and farm. So we went to an area where we think is suitable on the weekend, had a good drive around, and he had a good look at the soil and believes that he can make something out of it with a bit of improvements, of course, to the soil. And he will maybe pick one vegetable and just grow that just to keep himself busy, occupied, and do a bit of fishing. So big decision that he has put the farm on the market as of yesterday. So the agent, he's lovely. He came and did some photographs, and we've just got to write the little blurb that goes with it, and it's on the market. So very exciting. And he's actually, I didn't know how it was all going to play out, but he's actually quite upbeat about it all. I think once he saw where he could go and make something of interest for him to do, it wasn't a problem. He's ready for the next adventure. It must be a farming thing. So that's all happened in the last 2 weeks. It has just been unbelievable. Now, if I had gone to London, England, with Teresa to visit Maddie and whoop it up for 2 weeks, this would have all been happening while I was overseas. So I'm so glad I didn't go, because, yeah, would have been very stressful for me, because I would have been hopping on a plane just as I'm getting a phone call to say, get here now, I feel really ill. And I jumped in my car and drove straight through to the farm, got there at midnight, and he was in a bad way, really bad way. But out of all that, some big decisions have been made. It's funny how life does that, hey? Gives you a bit of a kick up the bum, and then you go, righto, I can't do as much as I thought I could do. And I'm ready to downsize or step sideways or whatever it may be. So there you go. Lucky, I did not get on that plane. Always get feelings like that. I tend to listen to my gut feelings. I've always had the weirdest things like that happen. I don't know why, it just does. I remember once being in the grocery store and I'm walking down the toiletry aisle and I saw, for some reason, these shavers, razors that you would use, manual razors for shaving your whiskers off. Or not my whiskers, my husband's whiskers. And I stopped at them and had this tremendous feeling that I should buy a razor for him. And my logic kicked in and said, oh, no, you don't need a razor. What do you need a razor for? He has an electric razor. And we were going away for the weekend to a wedding. And I'm standing there looking at these razors going, don't be silly. You don't need it. And I kept walking. And as I left that aisle, I sort of felt like I should go back and get that razor. And I didn't, because it was not logical. He had an electric razor. It would be packed and take it with us. So anyway, long story short, we're getting ready for the wedding. The morning of, he's having a shave. And what happens? The razor, the electric razor, didn't work. For some reason, it was no longer working. So we're in the middle of the mountains. He wanted to have a shave and the razor didn't work. Oh, I tell you. And I was thinking, not 3 days earlier, I was stopped dead in front of the razors, trying to logically understand why I felt I needed to buy one when I didn't believe I should. And now the razor wasn't working. So ever since that feeling and that incident, I listen now, because it's really odd. I don't know what it is. I don't really get into it, but you know, those gut feelings you have. I've always been pretty tuned into people too. You know, when you meet someone and your bristles go up on the back of your neck? That is spot on for me. It always has been. Ever since I was a little girl, I used to say to Mum and Dad, I don't like that person. And they used to think, how rude. This kid, how rude. And then time and time again, through growing up, that person may turn out to be someone that's not very nice. And Mum would always say, you said you didn't like him. And you were just a little girl. And what would that little girl know? Well, obviously she knew something. It's like when puppy dogs meet someone, and some people they like, some people they don't. We used to have, like I said, a dairy farm, and my brother had a friend at school, and he'd often come out to the farm for the weekend to spend with my brother, and they were only young, just kids. And every time this young lad would go near the dairy when Mum and Dad were milking, the cattle would get really upset. Like they'd start tromping, and they then go to the toilet, and it's just a pain in the neck when you're trying to milk cattle and put the milking cups onto them, and you've got a cow that's suddenly becomes unsettled. Yeah, well, these cows, every time this kid would walk into the dairy, and we're talking a, 8-year-old, 10-year-old, just a young fella at the time. I'm looking for my sequins. There they are. Yeah, just a young fella, just hanging out with my brother on the weekend. And these cattle, so in the end, we had to keep him out of the dairy because these cows didn't like him. We'll roll forward 20 years, and all I'll say is he's in jail for some not nice behaviour, some very nasty behaviour. So we've never forgotten that those cows were not fussed on him. Turned out to be a nasty little cretin. So isn't that interesting? I've threaded this needle, and I don't know if my sequin hole will go through it actually now that I've done it. So far so good. Oh yeah. So I'm just going to stitch now a couple little sequins on there, just to put a little bit of bling like I did on my snowman. And then the next thing will be to go around the outer edge. With the blue. And I do need to stitch on, can't pick that up, my buttons, and then create the buttonhole. But I'll do that off camera, and you've seen that before. Once I get the buttons on the piece, I then just mark where the little buttonhole slit needs to go using my quick unpick, create a little slice, and then hand stitch the buttonhole area so that it doesn't, you know, come apart, which is a pretty simple little procedure. And that's it. I'll stitch, when I do the blue edge around this piece, I actually use that stitch to attach it to that back piece so that it's all in position. So this one is nearly done. A couple more sequins just to give it a bit of bling, and it'll semi-match my snowman. Oh, I'm not sure if I'll do a red snowman. Stay tuned. If I do, it'll be next week. Maybe that's the thing. I've got a lot going on at the moment, so I'm probably more preoccupied with work than I am the craft room at the moment, which I think is going to be my problem going forward. As you know, I have a couple Christmas shops, and I took a phone call yesterday from a VM, a visual merchandiser, and he had 2 appointments in the morning and 2 appointments in the afternoon to visit shopping centres that want him to put their Christmas decorations in, and some of them are just, you know, the old existing decorations being reinstated for the season, and he'll put them in, and then he comes back after Christmas, takes them down and pops them back into storage for them. And he was going to pop over and have lunch with us and just catch up, because we only really see him at this time of the year, and he's become a friend. So the plan was he'd come over for lunch, and he rang me last night and he says, I'm just not going to make it. He said, I had 2 appointments before lunch, 2 appointments after lunch, and it was perfect because he sort of lives out of Brisbane, so it was making a day of it. And we were in the middle for a couple of hours for lunch and have a little bit of a chat about these appointments and what we could possibly help him with. And he rang me last night and he said he had to cancel. He had another 4 appointments drop in, all in Brisbane. So being that he's come into town, he's managed to tee them all up. So that's 8 shopping centres that want him to install Christmas. And some of them have bits and pieces, some of them don't. So he's going to go and visit them, have a chat to them, find out what they have, what they'd like, if they're changing their colour theme, if they're going to do the same as the previous year but maybe add a few more elements. So yeah, he said the phones are running hot. He said everyone's starting to think about their Christmas. This is the corporate world. So, and I think that's why I'm feeling a little busy at the moment, because the same thing is happening within our stores. So that was all in my mind thinking as I spent the rest of the evening doing some seed stitch on that little snowman. And I was like, oh goodness, how busy is it going to get? How much crafting am I going to get done? So you'll have to bear with me. I might be a bit patchy in my videos for the next few months. I've got my William Morris series done, but I don't have anything after that. So, but I certainly don't want to create stress for myself either, because that's not fun. So I do need to come up with another project, or do I just casual crafting? I don't know. Who knows? Trying not to overthink it. So my red snowman, I just don't know. I'm going to see how the week rolls. I've got a little bit of work to do for the next few days within the business, so I think I will just see see what happens. I might get to the weekend and feel like doing something and to do my little snowman, or I might do a William Morris stitchery for my journal. Not sure. First thing first, let's finish the blue snowman before I go and start something else. So just doing my running stitch. Doesn't take long. There we go. Okay, how are we going for time? We're coming in on the hour. Oh, goodness me. I think I'll post this video on Monday because it's currently, what is it today? Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. And you're watching part 1 and 2 of the snowman construction on Saturday, Sunday. So I think I'll put this one up on the Monday. So then you do the 3 of them in a row and then they're done. And you can get back into the William Morris series on Tuesday. I think that's how I'll do it. Just reschedule a couple of those episodes. Okay. All right, I might leave it at that because I'm running out of time fast and I've only got 3 minutes left and I don't think I'll get across there and down, so that's fine. This piece is completed. I just need to put my stitching around that, and then that little guy is in position. Then I will work on the buttons to go on my snowman. And I will pop a picture at the end. Where's my little snowman got to? Here he is. Come on, little guy, out you come. So he will sit in behind. And there'll be, where's the buttons? There'll be buttons added that will then have a buttonhole, and they'll pop through different sizes. Keep it quite random. That's a bit of a funny colour. I'm going to have to get some buttons. There we go. So those buttons will pop through to attach it to the snowman. But first of all, they will need to be stitched into position on the piece. I can put those away. All right, everyone. I will leave you all alone now. I'll finish chatting away. Don't forget to pop in the comments how you are using your Christmas pieces. Are they part of your Christmas decorating? Or are they in a journal that you'll just pop out at Christmas and have a little flip through? So yeah, I'd love to see what you're doing in your comments because we're coming up to halfway through the project, which is fantastic. Look, I'm going to stop. I'm going to keep going otherwise. Okay, everyone. I've got everything I need to carry on, and I might move to a comfortable couch and finish stitching the piece. Lovely. I'll pop a photo at the end of this video so that you can see it all done, and number 5 is in the book and finished. Okay, everyone, look after yourselves. Have a lovely week. Week if this comes out on Monday. Have a lovely week. See you all in the next video. Bye for now.